This is the new Weight Watchers, built for real life and real results, no matter what mode you're in. Maddie went all in for her big day and lost 33 pounds. Emily lost 85 pounds and hit her goal while still living her life.
Weight Watchers gave me the tools and I feel amazing.
Join the millions of members and lose weight with the #1 doctor-recommended weight loss program. Lose more at WeightWatchers.com.
At 6 months, participants in a clinical trial of Weight Watchers program lost an average of 12 pounds.
Some of the most damaging relationships are the hardest ones to explain, and they don't have to look extreme in order to be deeply harmful. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we make sense of what never quite made sense. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more, it's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin moving forward. You need a coach. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. It's 2 a.m. You should be asleep, but instead you're staring at the ceiling and their voice is in your head again. You're too sensitive. You always do this. Why can't you just be normal? If only you had done this, then I would not have done that. This is your fault. And now your mind is off and running. You're back in that kitchen, that car, that argument that never really got resolved. You're finding now the perfect response, the one that would have finally made them understand, the one that would have made them truly see you and hear you. You know the one that I mean, that one that is golden. They can't possibly misinterpret this one. Now I finally figured out how to say it. Well, how does that work out for you? How did it go? Did it finally magically work? Let's go back to 2 a.m. You're replaying the moment you apologized for something that wasn't your fault. Again, you're asking yourself for the 1,000th time, how could someone who says that they love me treat me this way? And somewhere around 3 a.m., you think to yourself, why can't I just let this go? Why can't I stop thinking about it? I know that place. I lived there for years. There were entire days, not just nights, but days, where my mind was consumed by a single relentless question. How could I help him understand? How could I make him see what this was doing to me? How could I make him see me? I was going through the motions of my life. Yes, I was doing the laundry, driving the kids to school, making dinner, but I wasn't there. I wasn't fully present. I was somewhere else entirely, and that was in my head. You get lost in your thoughts while you're trying to figure all this out. There were days I genuinely could not remember if I had turned the coffee pot off. Days I couldn't remember if I'd even packed my kids' lunches before I sent them off to school. Because every single ounce of my mental energy was being consumed by overthinking, by ruminating, by overanalyzing, whatever you want to call it. I was desperately chasing something, even though I really couldn't even quite put it into words what it was I was chasing. And if you are nodding right now, I want you to know 3 things before we go any further. First, you are not weak, obsessed, or even crazy. Your mind is doing something very specific. Something that makes complete sense given what you're going through or have been through. Second, there is a reason that this loop will not stop. And it's not the reason you think. What your mind is actually chasing in that 2 a.m. loop has very little to do with them and everything to do with you. Third, by the end of this episode, you are going to understand your rumination in a way that you never have before. And you're going to have 2 concrete tools to begin breaking that cycle. One for the quiet moments of reflection that's outside of the 2 a.m. spirals, and the other for the 2 a.m. spirals. So let's get started. First, let's begin with what is actually going on in your mind, why your mind is doing this. Your brain experienced something traumatic. When you have those moments of gaslighting or circular conversation, minimizing, being dismissed, or being belittled, you're going through something traumatic here. Not traumatic like a car accident, okay? Though it can actually feel that sudden and that violent if it's a moment of rage and explosion. But this is traumatic in a slow, invisible kind of way. It's an erosion of your reality. It's an erosion of your sense of self and your sense of stability. Someone you loved and trusted has repeatedly made you question your own perceptions, your own feelings, your own worth. This is a betrayal. It's a threat, like I said, to your sense of self, to your sense of security, to your sense of emotional safety. It is traumatic when you have to defend everything you've ever done to the person that you think trusts you the most, the person who you believe is your safe person. But you're now put on the defense. You're now feeling guilty for things that you haven't done or that are very human things and not actually wrong in the first place. And this is traumatic. Your nervous system registers all of this as a threat to your very existence, to your survival. So your mind does what minds are designed to do. They go to work. They go into this fight or flight mode. Being trapped and unable to fight back physically, your mind starts fighting back in the only way it knows how, by overthinking. It starts replaying, analyzing, looking for the pattern, looking for an answer, trying to make sense of a threat so that it can protect you from ever experiencing this threat again. So that's what's going on with the ruminating. This is your mind doing its job. Your mind is not broken. It's doing the very thing it's wired to do. But here's the problem, or at least one of the many problems when you're dealing with a covert narcissist. Covert narcissistic abuse does not make sense. It was never designed to. So you're trying to make sense out of something that it's not going to ever make sense. And that's what makes this so insidious, so subtle, so crazy making. The behavior, it's very confusing. The behavior from the covert narcissist. One day they are warm and loving, and you think, okay, maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was making too much of it. And the next day, you're invisible again, or you're walking on eggshells again, or you're being told that your feelings are the problem again. Your mind keeps running the same calculation over and over because it never gets a clean answer. It's not that you're weak, it's that you're given an unsolvable equation. But unlike math class, you can't play hooky. You can't skip class. You are stuck and forced to be a part of this unsolvable equation. No matter how many times you replay that conversation, no matter how perfectly you reconstruct it, no matter how many, pieces of paper and journals that you go through, making it all fit into place and putting your picture together, you cannot logic your way to clarity about someone who was never being logical with you in the first place. You cannot find the explanation that makes it all make sense because there isn't one. Not a rational one, anyway. And I'm really sorry that this is true. As much as I deeply wanted him to understand, to get it, I firmly believed that if he could just understand what I was saying, then this could get fixed. He could fix this. We could fix this. We could get through it. But that understanding never came. Your mind is trying to protect you from something it doesn't understand. And it never will understand it. So it just keeps looping. Covert narcissism does not make sense to people who are not covert narcissists. Now let's talk about the part of this that most people never actually explore. Why is the rumination so compulsive? Why does it feel almost impossible to stop, even when you know it's hurting you? Even when you've been told or told yourself 1,000 times to just stop thinking about it? Well, the answer has to do with something called intermittent reinforcement. You've probably heard that phrase before if you've done much research into narcissism. Think about a slot machine. You put in a coin, you pull the lever, and most of the time, nothing happens. But occasionally, just often enough to keep you there, it pays out. A little reward, a little glimmer of hope, maybe even a big reward, usually a little reward. And because it paid out before, you now know it's possible. So you keep pulling that lever. You can't walk away because what if the next pull is the big one, the payout? Well, that is exactly what a covert narcissistic relationship does to your nervous system. They didn't withhold love entirely. You see, there were moments, real moments, where you felt seen by them. You felt connected to them, where the relationship felt like what you always believed it could be. Those moments were real. Your feelings in those moments were certainly real, but they were inconsistent, unpredictable, given and then taken away without warning or explanation. And your nervous system, just like a gambler to a slot machine, became conditioned to keep trying, keep playing, keep participating, keep reaching for the moment when it would pay out again. So your mind keeps engaging, it keeps replaying, it keeps ruminating. That rumination is not a sign that you're weak or broken. It's a sign that you're conditioned. Your mind learned that connection was possible with this person, and in fact, it felt really good. And so your mind keeps trying to take you back. It keeps trying to find the right combination that will unlock it again. It keeps believing that if you just understand it a little bit better, say it a little differently, approach it from a slightly different angle, that maybe this time it will work. But it won't, at least not consistently. And somewhere deep down inside of you, you probably already know that. But here is what I really want you to sit with as we move into this next part, because this is the piece that I believe has the power to actually set you free. What is your rumination actually chasing? And I want to dive into this. I want to look into this deeply here. I don't mean on the surface. On the surface, it looks like you're chasing an explanation, an apology, an acknowledgement, a moment where they finally understand what they did to you, a connection to them. And all of that is part of what you're chasing. But I want to go deeper than that now. Let's go beneath the story of them. What is it that you are pursuing? What you are really chasing is a feeling inside of you, specifically a cluster of feelings that are among the most fundamental human needs that exist. The feeling of being truly seen by another person, the feeling of mattering, the feeling of connection that is real and reciprocal and safe, the feeling of trust and this safe bonding with another person, the feeling of resolution, of closure, of peace. These are not small things. These are not unreasonable things to want and desire. These are the feelings that for many of us make life worth living. But what you truly need to understand is that you were seeking those feelings from someone who was inherently unable to provide them. Not unwilling, unable. A covert narcissist cannot give you the feeling of being truly seen, because seeing you would require them to see themselves first, and it can't happen. They don't self-reflect, or at least there's a big barrier to self-reflection, and so they can't get past that and see you. The capacity is just not there, which means that every hour you have spent ruminating, every night you have lain awake, replaying conversations, rehearsing responses, trying to find those magic words, you've been running a calculation that you can never resolve. It's like being trapped in a horrible math class with problems that will never be solved. In fact, I'm going to go off script here for a minute and tell you about a math teacher I had in college. Now, I liked math. In fact, I was a math major. But there was this one professor. We would sit there in calculus class, and he would have a problem that he wanted us to solve, but he was going to use this as the example to teach us. So he would start at the chalkboard, and yes, I'm that old that we had chalkboards. And he would start the problem on one end of this one chalkboard. Now, he had like 4 chalkboards across the front of the classroom. And he would start solving this math problem. Off he would go, and he would fill up all the boards. Like it was this long of a math problem that he was solving. He would fill up all the boards, and he would get down to the bottom corner here with his answer, and he'd write the answer. And then he'd look at it and go, oh, that answer's not right. And we're all looking at it going, okay, what does that mean? Like, what do we do now? Because we've now filled up notebooks full of these answers that he's giving us as examples, and they're wrong. And he would just shake it off and go, well, you guys get it. You guys understand what I mean. And he would move on. You want to talk about maddening? That was the perfect example of math equations that could never be solved because we certainly weren't learning how to solve them. So this is like being trapped in a math class with the unsolvable equations. Well, you're trapped in a relationship, whether that be a spouse, a parent, a family member, a friend. You're trapped in a relationship with no solvable answers. This is an equation that can't be solved. And I want to be very clear about something. It is not your fault that you kept seeking water from a well that was dry before you ever got there. It wasn't your fault that you sat there in the math class trying to get answers to equations that, at this point at least, weren't solvable. The covert narcissist shows you glimpses. They give you just enough of those feelings that you're seeking to make you believe that they're a stable part of being in that relationship with them. It makes you believe that these feelings are going to exist as a part of this relationship. And this led you to believe that if you could just figure out the right approach, you could get back to that feeling again. But the rumination, it's not really about them. It's about you. It was always about you, about your legitimate, beautiful human need to feel seen, to feel connected, to feel safe, to feel at peace. So to work on your healing, the question is not, how do I make sense of what they did? That's a rabbit hole we all jump down, the awareness, the understanding, the language to talk about all of this, and it's extremely necessary. But it is a tiny first step in all of this. The real question for healing is, how do I finally get those feelings from somewhere that can actually deliver them? That's where your healing lives. It's not about them. It's about you. It's about you being able to return to these very human needs of safety and trust and connection. When you understand that the rumination is chasing a feeling, not a person, not an explanation.
The new Wegovy pill is now available through Weight Watchers. Powerful GLP-1 results in a simple pill at the lowest price available. And with Weight Watchers, you can get doctor support and personalized nutrition programs. See if you qualify at weightwatchers.com. Ad not reviewed or approved by Novo Nordisk.
But a feeling, something remarkable happens. That loop that's ruminating, it loses some of its power. Because you now realize that what you are looking for cannot be found by replaying that conversation one more time. It cannot be found by finally getting them to understand. It cannot be found by getting revenge when they finally pay for how they've treated you. It can only be found by going forward, by turning toward yourself, by asking, what do I need right now? What would help me feel seen, connected, at peace, and lean into those feelings. Where do they exist in your life right now, today, in your actual life? We spend so much of our lives believing that external things or external people are the only source of the feelings that we want the most. But those feelings are not hidden inside another person. They are not dependent on getting an apology that you may never receive. They are not waiting for the other side to finally understand why they did what they did. Those feelings are available to you right now from sources that can actually deliver them, from people who are capable of truly seeing you, from a relationship with yourself that is honest and compassionate, from the work of healing, which is the work of coming home to you. The rumination keeps you tethered to them, to their reality, to their narrative, to the hope that one day they will finally give you what you need. Understanding what that rumination is actually chasing is the beginning of untethering yourself from them. So let's close today with something you can actually use, because understanding this is powerful, but I want you to have concrete tools to work with. So, tool number one, I want to give you a journaling exercise, but it's a very specific one. I do believe firmly in the power of journaling. But this one is one when you have a quiet moment, not when you're in the middle of a spiral, not when you're in the middle of, that emotional spike that we get, but when you have some space and some stillness to really look at this. And I don't care if you have to do this in your car in the parking lot of a grocery store. If that's the only place you can find peace and a little, isolation where you can be still, then do it. And I want you to write about a recent ruminating episode, one that's fresh enough that you can still feel it. And I want you to answer these 4 questions. Question 1 is, what was I actually replaying? Describe it. The conversation, the moment, what they said or didn't say, what they did or didn't do, what you said and what you did. Get it out of your head and onto the page. Question 2, what feeling was I looking for in that rumination? What were you chasing? Go beneath the story, beneath what they did. What were you actually hoping to find? Connection? Resolution? To finally matter to them, to be seen, to be heard, to be trusted? Name the feeling that you were seeking as specifically as you can. Question 3, how much of my life did this episode of rumination take from me? Be honest here. How long did it last? A few hours? Days on end? What were you not present for during that time? What did you miss in your day, in your relationships, in yourself? While that loop was running, what did you miss? And question 4, what would I be doing in my life right now if I wasn't ruminating, if I wasn't chasing this feeling from them? Take your time with this one. Really sit with it. Let it mill around now in your mind. Not what you would be doing in some distant future version of you, but right now, today, this hour. Would you be pursuing something that maybe you've put on hold? A dream that got quieter and quieter while the loop in your head got louder and louder? Would you be more present with your children? Actually there, actually seeing them, actually remembering the ordinary moments that become the ones you cherish later? Would you be investing in friendships that have slowly faded because you simply haven't had the mental energy? Would you be taking care of your body, your health, your sleep? The things that you neglected while your mind was somewhere else entirely? Or maybe, and this is the answer that stops a lot of people completely, maybe you don't fully know. Maybe you've been in the loop so long that you've lost touch with what you actually want, with who you actually are outside of this relationship and its aftermath. If that's your answer, write that down too. This is not failure. This is not about judgment or shame or blame. It's one of the most honest and important things that you can discover about where you are right now. Because what the rumination has stolen from you isn't just your peace. It isn't just your sleep. It isn't just the days you can't really remember clearly. It stole your forward motion, your becoming who you are, the version of you that was growing and expanding and moving towards something in life. That version got frozen in place, still standing in that kitchen, still laying awake at 2 a.m., still trying to find the right words, still waiting for something that was never going to come. And once you can see this, even partially, even just a little, what your life looks like without the rumination at the center of it, once you can see that, now you have something to move forward with. You have something to move toward. And moving towards something is fundamentally different than being trapped in something. You are not just healing from them, you are healing toward yourself. Write down everything that comes up, even the things that feel too big or too far away, especially those things. Give it some space, give it some time, but the time will come when you can process those too. Now let's go to tool number 2. This is a body-based interruption, okay? And I call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you've done therapy, you might be very familiar with this, but I'm going to apply it right now to what we're talking about, the rumination. For those moments when the spiral stops, when you don't have time to go sit in a parking lot and journal, when it's 2 a.m., or you're in the middle of your day sitting in a crowded room, or you're sitting somewhere and you suddenly realize that the ruminating loop has taken over. I'm going to give you an example of the power of this from a very recent example in my life. I was flying out of state to be with my mom before her heart surgery. And I'm sitting at the airport, I'm in the terminal waiting for my flight, and without even realizing it, I actually had completely left the room. I was lost in my head, lost in worry, lost in my thoughts, running through every possible scenario, every fear, every what if. How are we going to do this if that happens? How are we going to do that if that happens? And then I caught myself. I thought, okay, this is exactly what I talk about with my clients. This is the suffering that lives in thinking. The event was the surgery, but the suffering was what I was doing with my thoughts about it. So I did something that I've taught my clients, and it's called 54321. Again, you've probably heard of it. And here's how it works: you pause, you take a deep breath, and then you intentionally engage each of your senses one by one. So let's start with the number 5. You name 5 things that you can see. Now, around us all the time, and sitting there in that airport, there were hundreds of things I could see. But I mean, you isolate it to 5 things that you consciously see. We are so surrounded by so much stuff around us all the time that we don't see half of it or more most of the time. So now be conscious for a minute and really look. Don't just glance, actually see them. I see this person is sitting beside me. Or maybe even I see their red tennis shoes. I see the phone in my hand. I see the sign on the wall with, my flight information on it. Be conscious of 5 things you can see. Maybe around you right now, it's I see the pen on my desk, or I see the dog sleeping beside me. Consciously see them. Now let's go to 4. Name 4 things you can physically feel. And you can do these senses in any order. This is just the order that I like. 4 things that I can feel. I feel the chair beneath me. I feel my feet on the floor. I feel the clothes on my skin. Or I feel the phone in my hand. Now let's go to 3 things. 3 things you can hear. And this is where something happened to me in that airport that I will never forget. I'm sitting there in the terminal, and when I got to the 3 things that I could hear, okay, I heard a conversation beside me. I heard the announcement over the speakers. But then I heard an airplane taking off. Now I want you to think about that for a moment. I had been sitting in that terminal for over an hour. How many airplanes do you suppose had taken off during that hour while I was sitting there? This was not the first one, not even close. But I had not heard a single one of them because I was so completely lost in my own thoughts that my senses had essentially switched off. That airplane was the moment that I understood how completely rumination can pull us out of our own life, out of the present moment, out of the present environment, out of where you are right now. So, name 3 things that you can hear. Really listen. Just sit listening until you find the 3. 2 things that I can smell. What does my shirt smell like? My hands, my hair. Hopefully, you've recently washed them, and so it's a sweet smell. And 1 thing that you can taste. It does help if you have a mint or a lemon drop or a stick of gum or even coffee, or you taste your own bad breath. I mean, that happens. By the time you finish all of this, your nervous system has begun to settle down. It's begun to regulate. Your mind has been gently but firmly pulled out of the past or out of the future and back into the present, back into your body, back into your actual life, which is what you're going on right this moment, not your thoughts about your life. Here's what rumination does. It takes you out of now and puts you back into then or what's yet to come. In that kitchen, in that car, in that fear of your future, in that conversation that's already happened, or in that conversation that's, soon to come. But your body only exists right now. And when you come back to your body, you come back to your present. And in the present, those worries and those fears, they're just not there. What else is not here in our present moment is rumination. Rumination cannot survive in the present moment. It needs the past or the future to live. So the next time the loop starts, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Break that loop and come back to you. If today's episode resonated with you, If you felt something shift in you as you were listening, I want you to know that this is just the very beginning of what's possible on this healing journey. Understanding is the first step, but understanding alone does not always move us forward. Sometimes we need support to actually apply what we know, to untangle the deeper layers, to find our way back to ourselves with someone walking alongside of us. And if you're ready for that step, I invite you to explore coaching with me at covertnarcissism.com. Your story matters, and you definitely deserve to be heard without judgment. And please, while you're here, subscribe, share this episode with someone who needs it tonight. You never know who is lying awake right now asking themselves why they can't let it go. Until next time, I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more. It's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin to move forward. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Your story matters, and you deserve to be heard without judgment. Check out my coaching services at my website, again, covertnarcissism.com. And don't forget to subscribe, to thumbs up, to follow, to like this podcast so that you can get more empowering episodes like this one and to help us continue spreading the word so that our community can continue to grow. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of this material and information provided.
The new Wegovy pill is now available through Weight Watchers. Powerful GLP-1 results in a simple pill at the lowest price available. And with Weight Watchers, you can get doctor support and personalized nutrition programs. See if you qualify at weightwatchers.com. Ad not reviewed or approved by Novo Nordisk.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.